amazing. Been a long time since I've been here. The Spring Fiesta was great. It was amazing to see all these kids coming out and having a good time. It's always good to be back. You know, it depends. It depends. Some festivals, it totally depends upon the crowd that shows up, and you never know what's going to show up. Honestly, I prefer small venues, intimate venues, but that's just me. But I love festivals also. Again, it depends upon who shows up. So anybody can be a hero on any given night, any day. One never knows.
I think a nice, hot, sweaty room with a loud sound system, function one, I think.
It's always really amazing, yeah. You can't really beat that.
Just that intimacy, the energy that you get from having them right in front of you with a massive sound system. I guess.
With them screaming in your face, and everybody's half drunk, Of course. Nothing's going to beat that. Nothing really beats that. Although, I mean, I've played some festivals where, you have 20,000 people losing their natural minds and it sounds like one big roar.
Yeah.
And it goes off. And that's pretty special too. So, it depends on the day. That is one of the things that they don't warn you about. On the road, off the road, on the road, off the road. Everybody thinks you can come home and get right to work in the studio. You come home on Sunday, you got 2 days of jet lag, you can't work. Wednesday, you finally start getting to work. Thursday, you're leaving again. It's a demanding schedule. Be careful what you ask for, basically. But you just try to make do with what you've been given, the dates you're given, or you take some time off. You say, okay, 2 weeks, 3 weeks I'm going to take off to try to get this record done. It's very difficult, quite actually. But you do what you have to do. I asked for this. Well, me personally, I have to be on my comfort zone. Yeah. Some people can work on headphones and a laptop and it's really easy for them. I've never gotten into that. I just can't. I like to hear things in my face loud on big, huge monitors and kind of like, simulating a club for me, club feel. And when you touch the keyboards, and I'm a kind of tactile kind of guy when it comes to making music. I like to touch knobs, and I'm kind of old school in that regard. And the road is just difficult. There's too many distractions, who wants to be holed up in a hotel room for 10 hours trying to make a record?
Yeah, not very inspiring.
It's not inspiring looking at, drab walls or, what's on Rai television or something. You're just like, eat, sleep. It's quite boring, honestly, to be on the road. But, you do what you gotta do. Producing is my first love. I'm a producer. I'm a DJ also now, but my first love will always be producing. That's what made me. That's who I am. I make records. It's a tough question. One, you have to have the time to do that. It's not easy to dedicate 3 months out of your life, out of that year, and say I'm not gigging. These 3 months I'm going to do this album. So that's why it's taken so long. Like I said, people don't warn you about this. And since the market has changed so dramatically as an artist, on one hand, technological advances have allowed everyone basically the ability to get music cheaply and easily. But on the other hand, these advances have kind of wrecked a producer's way of life. No longer are you able just to be able to sustain yourself and stay home and make records. That's not viable anymore. So gigging becomes part of being who you are, unfortunately. So taking this kind of time off, it's kind of impractical and impossible at the same time. So you kind of have to patch together records. Okay, I worked on this record in Africa. I worked on this record in Greece. I'll do a touch up here. I'll do a touch up there. And sometimes it becomes like a hodgepodge and mishmash of all these things that you've been working on for the past 2 or 3 years.
Yeah.
And that's what's happening now. I'm trying to piece together things, and also it's the scenery changes so quickly in the musical landscape. No longer can I do those soulful, beautiful records that I love to do with vocals and divas. I mean, that's not in vogue right now. Right now, it's more the tech soul or the techie thing. And you've got to kind of switch up your mentality for that. I mean, I don't want to do a whole album of tracks. I think that's just whack. You know what I mean? If you're an artist, man, push it a bit, push the envelope. And I like pushing envelopes, that's my thing. So I'm in a quandary, kind of like. I've never been one to pressure myself when it comes to making records, because I rather make one good one than 20 mediocre bad ones or bad ones. It just doesn't make sense to me. Why are you putting out everything you make?
Yeah.
I mean, that's just whack.
Yeah.
Ego check yourself. You got a lot of competition. So you should sit down and go through your stuff and say, okay, can this record sit at the top of most of the people that I admire's playlists? When they come to the club that night, is that the record they're dying to pull out of their box or off their stick to play, or out of their folder and tractor to play? I mean, and my feeling is, if my record doesn't fit that top 25 of what somebody's gonna play that night, or top 20, because it's 20 records to a 2-hour set, basically, 16 to 20. If it doesn't fit in there, then I'm not doing it.
It's not good enough.
It's just senseless, it's pointless to me. And I'm kind of proud of that fact. I just don't wanna do 20 records just for the hell of it. Who cares?
Yeah.
I wanna make something that lasts. So when it comes to this album, it's the same idea, the same principle is, I need to make something that's gonna last, that you're gonna hear 10 years from now and say, damn, that was an incredible album. It's moving. It kind of validates everything you felt at that moment when you were working on it. The way I kind of work is I kind of take myself out of myself when I'm working on a record, especially when I write all the lyrics to it. I sit there and I say, okay, is this gonna work in a club? And will they understand what I'm trying to say? And most of the times when I write these lyrics for these records, I try to write it whereas you as a listener are able to interpret the lyrics to make it fit your agenda, your emotional state at that time. My records are kind of open-ended. Like let's say, for instance, How Do I Let Go? Well, what am I talking about and how do I let go? See, I've left it open-ended, so you make it mean what you need it to mean for yourself at that time, wherever you are in that point of life. So when I hear 10,000 people singing that song and they get emotional, it validates everything for me at that point, saying, you know what, I wrote this record and I was on. I was right about it. I was right about the sentiment or where I was going with the thought process.
Or at least the emotion that you felt putting into the record.
It transcends and it validates everything for me. Most of these records are really I'm emotionally invested in it. My ex-wife and my ex-girlfriends used to say, you know where Dennis is at in a point of life when you listen to his records, because they're my stories. That's what people don't realize, that these are my stories. You're listening to where I'm at a point in time, and you're saying, okay, well, D's hurting, D's happy, D's sad, D's aggravated. These are stories, chapters of my life that I tend to share with everyone. And that's why it's so personal to me to make records. That's why I say I'm a producer first, because these are my stories. This is my outlet. And I let people into my life by writing this. So when you hear a record by me, I'm just not writing a record because I feel like, or because I have to, or because, my manager says, you know what, you need to do these records for bookings, or, I need to put 20 records out to be relevant. No, dude, you're hearing records that I wrote personally. These are stories, my stories. Now, whether you get them That's on you. Whew, that's kind of open-ended question. You know, it's been a long, strange trip. I think what's next is what I've always done. Just trying to stay relevant. Like I say, I make music for children, and I'm proud of that fact. I'm a dance music producer. So what's next for Dennis Ferrer? Dance records. It's what I do. It's not going to change. It didn't change when I was 17. It didn't change when I was 25, and it's surely not going to change now. So I'm just going to keep on doing what I do. Try to stay relevant, try to stay current, keep going out, and keep making music. Well, Objectivity was strange. I used to run a label called Sphere way back, which was doing a lot of soulful stuff. And I wanted to change a bit direction because I saw where the crowd was going at that time in New York and in Europe. And I realized we were going more electronic sounding. So I decided to just shelf Sphere because everybody associated that with more soulful stuff. And I wanted to start a label. I wanted to start a label that was electronic. And I did, the first record was called The Cube with Charisma. And we were shooting around names for artists, you know, as artists, you know, me and Charisma. Okay, we'll do Charisma, Ferrer Limited, or, you know, just really wacky names. And at one point, Charisma goes, yo, Objectivity. And I was like, wow, that's a cool name for a group, you know, Objectivity. And the name of the record would be The Cube. So towards the end of the week, I looked at Charisma and I says, dude, I'm hijacking the name for the label. And he looks at me, he goes, cool. And I go, you sure? He was like, yeah, cool. I says, well, we'll put out the record, The Cube, you know, Ferrer and Charisma Limited. And the name of the label is Objectivity. So Charisma's got a little bit to do with that, you know, with that name of the label. And that's how Objectivity came out. It was really...
Cool, I never knew that.
Yeah, it was just an off thing, you know. Yeah, the name of the group, us two together, Objectivity. Yeah, that'll work. Nah, and it's not gonna work. Let's call the label that. Crazy.
Crazy kids.
It's crazy. It's just crazy, man. I don't even know how to say it. It's amazing. That's it in a nutshell. I mean, I can go through this spiel for you, but when I walked up to the stage and I saw that, I was like, huh? Oh, okay, interesting. It's crazy out there. So yeah.